It is often said that each of us harbors our own hidden truths. There are secrets we share only with our closest companions. There are thoughts we inscribe in journals, and then there are the words we leave unspoken, not even to ourselves. This is one of those hidden truths, not out of desire for it to be so. Yet, to utter it aloud would shatter something hallowed beyond repair. Something I have devoted my entire existence to feigning as complete. I was the girl who inscribed Daddy's Girl on every birthday card. The sort of daughter who gazed at her father as if he had painted the very moon in the sky, who hurried to him, bearing scraped knees, tales from school, and aspirations of recognition. And he indeed saw me. Oh no, he noticed me. Perhaps in excess, perhaps in manners that a father ought not to. I'm uncertain about the moment it shifted. I'm uncertain whether it was him, or perhaps it was me, or maybe it was simply the silence that stretched between us, becoming too vast to bridge. Yet, I am certain that when the line fades, the visions become indelible and the emotions linger, impossible to erase. How I long to convey that the tale unfolds with ease. It exists in stark contrasts. In this tale, one emerges as the villain while the other assumes the role of the victim. However, it is not. It's chaotic. It lacks firmness where it should be most resilient. It aches in manners I cannot articulate. What do you name that moment when love begins to unravel into confusion? When comfort embodies intimacy, and intimacy transforms into a weight you no longer know how to bear. I have revisited it countless times in my thoughts. The evenings, the caresses, the stillness enveloping the kitchen, the manner in which his hand lingered for just a heartbeat too long, the manner in which my body would become still. It wasn't fear that held me back. Rather, a part of me resisted the urge to take a step forward. That is the aspect that lingers in my mind the most. Now is not the time, yet the silence, the manner in which I allowed it to rest, the manner in which I refrained from running. It is often believed that trauma manifests solely through screams, echoes of slammed doors, and desperate cries for assistance. Yet, at times, it remains hushed. At times, it resembles a celebration of another year gone by, a festive dinner in honor of life's milestones. A gentle smile. An embrace that was intended to convey security, yet failed to do so. Perhaps this is a topic best left unspoken. Perhaps this feeling is not meant for me. Yet, fatigue envelopes me, weary of feigning that it never occurred. Weary of questioning whether it was merely a figment of my imagination. Weary of shouldering the burden by myself. I am sharing it here. Not out of sympathy. Not for theatrics. Yet, if there exists anyone who has ever experienced a feeling that eludes definition. For those who have experienced the heartache of loving someone meant to be your guardian, only to find themselves lost in a haze of confusion. Perhaps this narrative extends beyond my own experience. Perhaps it belongs to us. Due to the events that transpired between my father and me. It began in a fleeting instant that seemed innocuous, yet it concluded in a silence that continues to resonate within the very core of my being. What comes next? Now I carry a truth that remains unspoken, locked away in the depths of my being. Not for him, not to my family, not to those who continue to think we were merely an ordinary father and daughter. If you find yourself here, I sincerely hope you choose to remain with us. Refrain from passing judgment. Leave it as it is. Yet, merely to observe. For certain tales, resolution is not their destiny. They exist solely to be shared. Join us at Heartfelt Tales Unfold, where we share the narratives too weighty for silence and too authentic to be forgotten. I have reached the age of 26. Yet, as I shut my eyes, the essence of 17 lingers within me. The aroma of the warm spaghetti he crafted every Sunday lingers in my memory. The faint resonance of his footsteps lingers in the hallway, accompanied by the gentle click of his door as he retreats to bed, extinguishing the last flickers of light. It had always been just the two of us. From the age of 9, it was the year when my mother departed, without a hint of caution. There is no farewell. A simple note rests on the kitchen counter, accompanied by a phone number that has since faded into silence. I recall the moment I awoke that morning, her coffee mug lingering on the table. Half full, reminiscent of her love for us. Then, silence enveloped everything. Not the sort of silence that brings tranquility. Yet it's the sort that seeps into your very marrow, compelling you to speak in hushed tones, even in solitude. Father seldom spoke of her. Never. Not even when I inquired. He would merely assert that she had her reasons before deftly steering the conversation in another direction. Yet, he was perpetually present. He attended every recital without fail, always remembered a birthday. He would attempt to braid my hair when I was young, though his efforts were far from perfect. Still, he made the effort. In the stillness of the night, as tears streamed down my face, he would take his place at the edge of my bed, softly humming the familiar tune that once flowed from my mother's lips. That was the essence of him. He seldom employed an abundance of words. Yet, in that moment when his gaze met mine, I was enveloped by the sensation of being the singularly most significant individual in existence. It seems that was the very element that contributed to the confusion that followed. In those days, I often heard others say, "You're so fortunate. Your father is truly remarkable." And I would smile, for they were not mistaken. He was truly remarkable. Yet, no one has ever inquired about the experience of being your father's whole universe while simultaneously being his solitary shadow. Our lives were marked by familiar patterns. Evening repast at 7 o'clock. Sharing the task of washing dishes. In the stillness of the night, with the lights dimmed, it's just the two of us basking in the soft glow of the television screen. During the weekends, we would embark on grocery shopping excursions together. He would propel the cart forward. I would ride on the edge, embracing the thrill like a child, despite being 17. We would share laughter over the silliest of things. Which cereal box contained the most coveted toy within its colorful confines? It was pure and untainted, until it ceased to be. It wasn't until I began to observe the way his gaze lingered on me as I brushed my hair, or how he would fall silent whenever I donned a tank top during the summer months. How his gaze held just a moment longer than necessary. Initially, I believed I was merely conjuring it in my mind. What sort of girl holds such thoughts about her father? Yet, it occurred more than a single time. It persisted, time and again. Within the confines of the kitchen, inside the vehicle, as his fingers grazed against mine while he passed me a plate. Yet, I found myself unwilling to accept the truth. He was everything to me, and because I required him to embody goodness. He didn't touch me inappropriately, not quite. Yet, amidst it all, there existed these fleeting instances that twisted my gut and constricted my heart. Unspoken moments linger in my mind, etched in memory, yet untouched by words. On a particular night, I found myself in my pajamas, nestled on the couch beside him. As we settled in to watch an old black and white film, I nestled against his side, a familiar gesture that felt as natural as breathing. He drew me close, his arm encircling me, as he had always done. Yet, on that particular night, his hand stirred ever so slightly, leaning gently against my waist, then descended just an inch too far. In that moment, I became utterly still, not out of fear. Yet, an inner voice urged me to remain still. Please let this remain a mere illusion. He remained silent. I did not either. We continued to immerse ourselves in the film. He pressed a gentle kiss to my forehead and whispered good night, as if nothing had transpired. And perhaps nothing truly transpired. Yet, slumber eluded me that night. As dawn broke, I found myself unable to meet his gaze. In that moment, it dawned on me that my sense of safety had vanished. Not from him, however, from my perspective. From the musings that began to take shape in my mind. The inquiries, the weight of remorse, the yearning. I understand how that may come across. I despise the way it sounds. Yet, when affection becomes ensnared in quietude, when you have devoted your entire existence to the profound need for a single individual, truly relying on their presence, you lose the sense of what love is meant to feel like. Thus commenced the journey. The dawn of the disintegration, The onset of inquiries I found myself unable to voice. The moments I could never escape. The intimacy that had once felt secure now seemed untrustworthy. My friends continued to say it repeatedly. Your bond with your father is truly remarkable. It's charming, and I would smile. Yet, within, I found myself in a state of utter chaos, my voice rising in a fervent cry. For they were oblivious to the tremor that coursed through my hands as he embraced me. They were oblivious to how I carefully steered clear of sitting too near. They were oblivious to the tears that fell in the solitude of the shower each night as I sought to cleanse myself of an unnamed burden clinging to my skin. Even now, after all these years, I find myself pondering. Did I conjure it in my mind? Could it have been my doing? Could it have been love? Or perhaps something altogether different? I lack those answers. Yet, I am aware of the sensation it evoked. And I understand that sensation lingers, never truly fading into the background. The chill of winter enveloped the world. It was one of those nights when the chill seeped in, refusing to remain confined to the outdoors. It permeates your garments, infiltrates your very essence, and settles deep within your heart. The sort of chill that stirs a longing for warmth, for something to soften the piercing silence. I had just returned from a visit with Josh, the boy I dated in high school, or perhaps my former boyfriend, I suppose. Our time together had stretched nearly a year. He possessed a sense of humor that was both wild and a touch reckless. He is the antithesis of my father. Perhaps that is the very reason I found myself captivated by him from the outset. Yet, as the night unfolded, he brought it all to a close, claimed I was excessive, overwhelmed by feelings, excessively intense, excessively dependent. Amusing, isn't it? All I ever desired was to be selected, retained, noted, and in some inexplicable way, that always sent people fleeing. Upon returning home, I found myself trembling, not only from the chill of the outside air, but also from the emptiness that had begun to unfurl within me. The house lay shrouded in darkness, save for the solitary lamp casting its warm glow in the corner of the living room. Father occupied that spot, anticipating, as he always did whenever I ventured out. Not in an unsettling manner. Simply guarded. I let my keys slip from my grasp and attempted to make my way to my room, yet he halted me with a single glance. Initially, there were no words spoken. He simply extended his arms wide, and I stepped into their midst. As I have always done. Yet, there was an unmistakable shift in the air this time. He embraced me, extended. His hands remained still. His voice remained silent. Yet his breath remained calm as it brushed against my hair. As I leaned back ever so gently, his hand found its way to cradle my cheek. It possessed a gentle quality, comforting, yet it is also quite delicate. Excessively sluggish, excessively conscious. His thumb glided beneath my eye, where a tear began to gather, and I found myself paralyzed. Not due to fear, yet my body seemed at a loss, unsure of how to respond. The ache in my chest lingered, a haunting reminder of the recent breakup. My heart remained tender and unhealed. In that instant, being embraced in such a way brought a sense of warmth and comfort. Exceedingly delightful. A hush fell in the aftermath, dense, as if a shroud of mist envelopes the space. It was as if we were both engaged in a delicate dance of denial, feigning ignorance of the moment that had just unfolded. Perhaps I was the sole actor in the charade. He released his grip. Rose to my feet. He declared, "I shall prepare some tea for you." And just like that, we returned to the familiar rhythm of our lives. Yet, it was far from ordinary, not any longer. I lingered on the couch, observing him as he navigated the kitchen with purpose. The manner in which his shoulders drooped, the manner in which he averted his gaze as he passed me the mug. Neither of us uttered a word about the embrace. Yet I sensed it, within the confines of my chest, within the confines of my abdomen, in moments where I wished to remain untouched by emotion. That night, sleep eluded me. It's not due to Josh. Yet, my mind lingered on the memory of how my father had embraced me. His thumb lingered, a subtle yet profound gesture. The manner in which a fragment of my being had desired it. Or perhaps it wasn't a desire for it, but rather a reluctance to see it come to a close. It was at that moment that the confusion began to unfold. In that moment, I understood that love can wield a perilous edge, especially when it emanates from those entrusted with your safety. I reassured myself that it was merely a source of solace, simply an embrace. Please hold on for a moment. Yet, not every touch resonates in the same way, even if they originate from a source you hold in high regard. What's truly terrifying? I was uncertain whether he experienced it as well, or if I found myself solitary amidst the tempest. I longed to declare that this was the final occurrence, that we returned to the way things once were. Yet, this was merely the dawn of what was to come. The initial minuscule fissure in the wall I believed to be impervious. Once a crack emerges, the world begins to shift before your eyes. Following that night, a transformation stirred within me, not in the manner of an earthquake, not in a sudden rush. It resembles a gentle, hushed descent, akin to sand yielding softly underfoot. I continued to refer to him as Dad, yet they still uttered their goodnight, continued to dine at the table as if nothing had shifted. Yet within me, all had transformed. I began to observe details that had previously escaped my notice. There was something captivating about the way his gaze trailed after me as I strolled by. His voice took on a gentle quality as he uttered my name, the manner in which his compliments struck with greater intensity than before. It was unintentional, yet I found myself embracing a new style of dress. Initially, the focus was on smaller, less baggy sweatshirts, leaning towards more fitted tops. I convinced myself it was a sign of maturity. I simply yearned for a sense of confidence. Yet, beneath the surface, I was probing something profound, evaluating his capabilities, challenging my limits. And when he would say, "You look beautiful today," I would become utterly still. For a moment, a spark ignited within me, while simultaneously an urge to escape my own skin surged forth. I loathed the sensation of feeling good. I despised the fact that I required him to repeat it, to catch my eye, to behold me. For in those moments, I experienced a recognition that eluded me from everyone else, and that filled me with an overwhelming sense of dread. I began to invest greater care into the evening meal. I would experiment with new recipes, immerse myself in YouTube tutorials, and present the dishes as if I were seeking approval. In those moments, as he took a bite and nodded with that warm smile, that proud, quiet approval, I felt a sense of significance wash over me, as if I were sufficient. Yet it was fleeting. After the kitchen was spotless and the dishes were tucked away in the dishwasher, I would retreat upstairs, find solace in the shower, and let the tears flow until the water turned icy. I found myself at a loss for words when it came to discussing it. I find myself at a loss for words, grappling with the realization that I may be conflating love with something entirely different. I found myself at a loss, unsure of how to seek assistance without igniting chaos all around me. Thus, I offered my prayers. Each evening, in hushed tones, fragmented, in a state of utter despair. "Oh, divine presence, I implore you to mend my fractured self. Kindly remove this from my presence. I wish to escape this feeling. I find myself reluctant to desire this. Restore my sense of normalcy." In the silence that followed, I took to the page, pen in hand. I had acquired a new journal, one I concealed beneath my bed. Each page brimmed with unspoken questions that lingered in the silence. I feel as though I am shattered. I believe I may be unwell. Yet he remains the sole individual who has not departed, the sole presence that endures. My friends observed a change in me, more reserved, increasingly unfocused. They would send a message, asking if I wanted to get together. There were times I would declare myself busy, even in moments of stillness. How can one find joy and laughter with a dear friend at a coffee shop when the shadows of their own emotions loom large and intimidating? Every time your father embraces you and your heart races, I began to feel a deep sense of resentment towards myself, struggling with self-acceptance, constantly questioning each decision. Had I been giving him false hope? Did I conjure it all in my mind? Did I err in my observation? Is it wrong to crave something so enticing? I reminded myself, this is the effect of trauma. This is merely destruction. Yet, that did not bring it to a halt. The confusion lingered on, refusing to dissipate. The pain lingered on, unrelenting. Each compliment turned into an intoxicating substance, and I loathed the depth of my craving for the next fix. One night, he remarked, "You're destined to break hearts someday," and he let out a hearty laugh. Simply a light-hearted jest. Yet, I found no amusement. I was unable to. For beneath the surface, my heart was already shattering. Crushed by the burden of desiring the one individual I was never meant to crave anything from. What could possibly be worse? I remained uncertain about where the boundary had been breached, for the simple reason that it was never a topic of our conversation. Rules were absent. There are no labels for the emotions. Only silence lingered, with the distances between us steadily diminishing. That year marked my 19th birthday. Though college had commenced, I found myself returning home each weekend. Not out of necessity, but driven by desire. There was an undeniable quality to the house, to him, that exuded both safety and an exhilarating danger simultaneously. As the final bell of midterms rang, he caught me off guard. He mentioned that he had reserved a cabin for the weekend near the lake. Only the two of us. It was promised to be an opportunity to relax, to reconnect as we once did. A smile graced my lips, affirmed with a yes, lightly packed. I chose to disregard the knot that twisted within my stomach. The journey was serene. He allowed me to choose the music. I joined in the melodies of the songs I believed he had left behind. We paused for fuel and treats, reminiscent of the days of my childhood. Upon our arrival at the cabin, I found the chill in the air to be more biting than I had anticipated. Yet inviting. Rich, inviting wood paneling. A hearth aglow. There were 2 rooms, yet he claimed the heater in my space was malfunctioning. It was mentioned that using the couch would be perfectly acceptable. I accepted it without hesitation. I did not engage in that action. He ignited the flames, uncorked a bottle of wine. Only a single glass for each of us, yet the impact was undeniable. Within the confines of my chest, upon my cheeks, I laughed with an exuberance that echoed through the room. We indulged in the viewing of a classic film, Monochrome. It possesses a certain romantic quality, indeed. We nestled together on the couch, our shoulders brushing against one another. Attire. And in that moment, nestled between the second glass and the scene where the couple shares a kiss beneath the rain, I became aware of the profound silence that enveloped the room. Silence reigns. Silence, please. The only sounds that filled the air were the crackling of the fire and the rhythm of his breath. And mine. His hand lingered on the cushion next to me, its warmth grazing my leg ever so lightly. Not captivating, staying still, merely taking a moment to pause. I remained still. I ought to have. I had the desire to. However, I chose not to. In that instant, it seemed as though a scene was unfolding before me, as if we had stepped right out of a film. The air that lingered between us felt entirely different. A sense of beauty enveloped me, seeking, significant, and that filled me with dread. For I found myself lost in the uncertainty of my identity in his eyes. As the credits began to roll, he averted his gaze from me. I have just risen to my feet. A yawn escaped my lips, whispered a tender good night, darling, before retreating into the sanctuary of the bedroom. Reclined on the couch, the blanket wrapped snugly around me, I found myself lost in thought, my gaze fixed on the ceiling for what felt like an eternity, attentively absorbing the sounds around. Amidst the gentle crackle of the fire, to the breeze that dances beyond the window, to the sound of his breathing in the room next door. And the distance that separated us seemed more fragile than the very walls around us. I envisioned rapping gently on his door. I envisioned the words that would escape his lips. what I might consider doing, and then tears streamed down my face. For I loathed myself for allowing such thoughts to take shape in my mind. As dawn broke, I found a neatly folded note waiting for me on the coffee table. "It's time for breakfast, my dear son. I hesitated to disturb your slumber. Rest peacefully." My gaze lingered on it for what felt like an eternity. The way he forms each letter. His familiar little smiley face at the conclusion. The very same note he would tuck into my lunchbox back in 3rd grade. And in an instant, all became a haze. Excessively near, excessive distance, excessive, insufficient. We dined in quietude. Fluffy stacks of pancakes. Freshly squeezed orange juice. The sun poured through the window, oblivious to the night that had come and gone. He inquired about the quality of my sleep. I inclined my head in agreement. He offered a smile. Yet the film remained unspoken between us. Or perhaps the wine. Or the instant. Or the nearly. Perhaps it was in that moment that understanding dawned upon me. A boundary had been breached. Yet, which one shall it be? The bond shared between a father and his daughter? Or perhaps the one that exists between creativity and purpose? I was unaware. Yet, it remains unaccomplished. Every daughter yearns for love. Yet, when affection begins to morph into yearning, how does one navigate that terrain? I continued to return home on weekends. I continued to prepare dinner without pause, remained nestled closely on the couch. Yet, following that journey, I could no longer feign ignorance of the distance that lay between us. I observed it with unwavering attention, each moment unfolding before me. And I believe he felt the same way. In the month of April, I celebrated my 20th birthday. No celebration, no large assembly. It was just the two of us, as it always has been. He proclaimed that birthdays held a sacred significance, meant solely for the two of us. I placed my trust in him. For there was a yearning within me, a desire that lingered in the shadows. He prepared my favorite dinner, layers of lasagna, warm garlic bread, and a rich chocolate cake from the familiar bakery he had frequented since my childhood at 7. All was as it should be, exceedingly flawless. After dinner, he presented me with a small, velvet box. It was said, "You have outgrown the innocence of childhood." As I pried it open, my breath hitched in my throat. A necklace it was, glistening, ethereal, delicate, and graceful. The type of tranquility you offer to a woman. Not a daughter, a delicate heart cradling a lustrous pearl at its core. This is not a gift intended for humor. Not merely a trinket, yet something selected, contemplative, personal. Words eluded me. I glanced at it, then turned my gaze to him. He offered a smile, gentle, stillness, nearly filled with pride. "Allow me to assist you in putting it on," he offered. I pivoted on my heel, raised my hair. His fingers brushed softly against the nape of my neck. In that moment, every part of me became utterly motionless. The clasp snapped into place, yet his hand remained still, reclining at the nape of my neck. Then it glided softly, tenderly along the center of my spine. Merely a step beyond the limit. Merely a heartbeat beyond the moment. Yet I remained still. I ought to have. Yet I refrained. In that instant, I found myself suspended in the air, caught in a web of shame and an elusive feeling beyond it. A gentle warmth, a deep yearning, a tale of terror. He maneuvered past me, gazed deeply into my eyes. In that fleeting moment, for a single heartbeat, we found ourselves enveloped in silence. Our eyes met in a silent exchange. Not in the role of a father, not in the role of a guardian. Yet, as a man, it filled me with disdain. I despised how it churned my stomach. The sensation of my skin tingling beneath the necklace was utterly detestable. I despised my inability to avert my gaze. In that moment, he blinked, interrupted the stare, wished a joyful birthday to the young one, and strolled down the corridor. In an instant, and I remained there, paralyzed, trembling, my hands clenched into tight fists at my sides, for the simple reason that nothing transpired. Yet, everything transformed. I kept it to myself, never sharing a word with another soul. Not even my therapist can help with this. How does one confess to an event that never truly occurred, yet still resonates as a profound betrayal? The shattering of faith, concerning safety, concerning limits, of the young girl within me who would nestle into his lap, convinced that love was uncomplicated. That moment transformed everything. The house transformed into a stage upon which I had no desire to perform. Transformed each embrace into an enigma. Transformed quietude into doubt. And, most troubling of all, it led me to doubt my own worth. Could it have been me? Was I the one drawing him closer? Was I the one mistaking affection for attraction? Because I remained steadfast, because I was paralyzed by the moment. For within me, a fragment that will forever remain unpardoned, stirred an emotion that ought never to have existed. From that moment on, my perception of him shifted irrevocably. I found it impossible to regard myself in the same light. The necklace remained around my neck. Not due to my fondness for it, but rather from uncertainty about the implications of removing it. Was I conveying a message? Was I exacerbating the situation? Was I clinging to something shattered, unable to find the strength to release it? Answers elude me. Just that instant. The caress of that touch, the gaze. Then came the stillness that ensued. It remained unspoken between us. Not the necklace, not the embrace. That's not quite the appearance we're aiming for. It felt as though we had both come to a quiet understanding, a mutual decision to wipe it from our minds. In silence, without uttering a single word. Yet, silence carries a profound weight. And what about ours? It lingered between us like a dense fog that refused to dissipate. Following that evening, he withdrew. Not in grand, overt manners, merely sufficient. He ceased to keep vigil for me when I lingered out into the night. Ceased to linger in the kitchen post-dinner. Ceased expressing, "I'm proud of you," without cause. He continued to smile. Once again, the question arose about how school was going. He still referred to me as kiddo. Yet it all resonated. Remote, misguided. As if he were making an effort to tread lightly. Excessively cautious. What about me? I ceased my visits home each weekend. Commenced the art of crafting justifications. Collaborative endeavors. Evening hours. Non-existent study sessions. Each time I crossed that threshold, it was as if I had to don a facade. The mask of the good daughter. The individual who had not remained paralyzed in a moment that was never intended to be. That autumn, I embarked on my journey into therapy. I informed them that I was navigating some familial strife. I found myself navigating through a haze of confusion. Yet, I never revealed the truth. How might I? What is the explanation for a wound that has not bled? What do you call a wound that arrives cloaked in comfort? Whenever I attempted to voice it, my throat would constrict. The words evaporated before they could touch my lips. I circled the subject and departed from therapy sessions with a sense of lightness, yet never truly liberated. I ventured into the realm of dating once more. A man by the name of Evan. Delightful. Amusing. Secure. Yet, when his fingers brushed against the small of my back for the first time, I couldn't help but flinch. Challenging. He appeared bewildered. I offered my sincerest apologies. I brushed it aside with a chuckle. I mentioned that I was merely ticklish, yet it was not that. It was the instinctive recall of the body. It was that fleeting moment that stretched just a heartbeat too far. The hand that lingers. The birthday necklace remains tucked away in my drawer. Evan ultimately ceased his messages, claimed I was an enigma. I appeared to be somewhat reserved. Perhaps I was. Perhaps I continue to be. I began dedicating more hours to the digital realm. Perusing the depths of uncharted online discussions, environments crafted for those who struggled to articulate their suffering. It was there that I stumbled upon the phrase, grayzone trauma. Refrain from mistreatment, not an act of aggression. Yet, there lies another element. A shadowy enigma, unclear. An experience that prompts you to question its validity, even as it unfolds before you. I came across writings from individuals who shared the same emotions I experienced. Individuals tormented by the specters of what could have been. through the fleeting glances, amidst the quietude, through the gestures that, while not overtly incorrect, still inflicted wounds upon their very essence. For the first time, a sense of clarity washed over me, dispelling the shadows of doubt. I felt a sense of companionship. I've embarked on the journey of writing, not in my name, without any specifics, merely emotions. His absence lingers in my thoughts. I am feeling unwell. I long to reclaim everything, yet I find myself at a loss for where to start. It seems I have shattered something that was never truly mine to possess. Audio accessory, I adored him. I continue to do so. Yet, I find it impossible to place my trust in that love any longer. I find myself at a loss, grappling with the weight of that reality. What do you do when the one who provided you with the greatest sense of safety also left you in a state of profound confusion? What do you do when the one who showed you the essence of love has also distorted its very contours, leaving you unable to discern its true form? This journey lacks a guidebook. There exists no definitive roadmap for recovery from an event that never truly transpired. Just silence and disgrace. And a necklace I have yet to part with. I have replayed it in my mind countless times. It unfolded like a cinematic masterpiece, rewinding, pausing, and slowing to a crawl as I sought the moment when everything began to warp. Did I give him false hope? Did I do something wrong? Could it have been the manner in which I leaned in while I laughed? How I chose to attire myself within the confines of my home? The intensity of my longing for his attention felt as essential as the very air I breathed. Or was I merely a daughter yearning for affection in a home where love was the only thing I ever sought? At times, I find myself contemplating whether my trauma has obscured the true essence of reality. Perhaps my solitude conjured visions of the unreal. If I were to complete the gaps in our relationship with the shattered fragments of my own desires. Yet, I recall the way my stomach knotted itself in turmoil. How my chest constricted. How my skin ignited beneath his fingertips, not with pain, but with bewilderment. And I remind myself the body understands. Even when the mind deceives. Even when the recollections become hazy. Even when the narrative unfolds in a manner that defies conventional resolution. My body has always remembered. Not the sofa. Not the cabin. Not the necklace. One profound lesson I've come to understand is that one can bear wounds without ever having been physically touched. One need not endure shouts to sense a looming threat. At times, the most profound wounds are etched by events that never truly revealed themselves. Yet, I find myself pondering. Was that his intention? Was he aware? Did he sense it as well? Or was it entirely my doing? Was he merely fulfilling his role as a father, while I was the one who misinterpreted it? That notion lingers within me. It arrives in the stillness of the night. It pulls at my heartstrings and softly suggests that perhaps you have marred something that was never truly flawed. Yet, I find myself contemplating the depths of his gaze. That day of celebration. That instant. The gaze he cast upon me was devoid of paternal warmth. Not in the role of a guardian, yet as an alternative. There exists an image forever etched in my mind. And I come to understand, even if it was understated. Though words were absent, he sensed it as well. He surely must have, as silence enveloped us both. Silence carries weight, never remaining impartial. It bears a significant weight. It is fully charged. It articulates all the thoughts you hesitate to voice. Forgiveness remains a mystery to me. It is not meant for him. This isn't suited to my tastes. Is it merely feigning ignorance of the past? Is it the journey of rediscovering love, unburdened by trepidation? Is it at last revealing the complete truth without softening it or concealing it behind cautious language? Perhaps forgiveness is simply the decision to release the burden of guilt, even if I remain uncertain of its rightful place. At times, I ponder whether my quietude served as a shield. Had I chosen silence to maintain harmony, to preserve the integrity of our bond, to prevent my recollection of him from disintegrating entirely? Yet at other moments, it seems akin to yielding. I surrendered my voice, allowing the narrative to unfold on its own, free from my influence. Here I find myself, amidst the remnants, clutching questions that will forever remain unanswered. What I can say is, my love for him was undeniable. I found myself in need of him. And somewhere along the journey, that love became ensnared in burdens I was never destined to bear. I find myself still grappling with it. Have you ever clung to something, not for its truth, but because the thought of release would leave you with emptiness? Have you ever safeguarded a memory, knowing that to rewrite it would mean losing someone you still cherished, despite the pain they caused you? That is the place I have called home. In the delicate balance between truth and survival. In the space that lies between recollection and quietude. At times, I find myself questioning whether my emotions were misguided. For pausing in instances when I ought to have fled. In search of solace in unexpected corners. But tell me, was I mistaken for experiencing such emotions? I never opted to experience such emotions? Or was I merely a girl yearning for affection? Untouched, unclaimed, just observed, merely grasped, merely retained. Share your truths in the comments below, not the refined edition, not the version you've practiced, the genuine article. I perused each and every one, free from any judgment. Only truthfulness. For those who have ever experienced the bewilderment of being misled by someone you believed in. Have you ever held a secret so silently that it began to echo like your very own name? One is never truly solitary. Enjoy this tale? Join Heartfelt Tales Unfold, where the unspoken transforms into narratives too burdensome to bear in solitude. Strike the bell. What about the forthcoming tale? It may resonate with thoughts you've kept hidden, never uttered in the light of day. Not every wound bleeds. Some exist in a manner that makes us recoil from tenderness. We retreat from the embrace of safety, for we once confused peril with affection. Not all betrayals take root in the intimacy of bedrooms. They commence in the cozy embrace of living rooms. During the celebrations of another year of life, during journeys on the open road, in embraces that linger just a moment too long and looks that resonate with unspoken intensity. They start in well-known embrace, an embrace that once lulled you into slumber, yet now feels like a realm forever out of reach. What about a few hidden truths? We do not retain them out of desire. We hold on to them, for our belief endures. Voicing them will shatter all that we hold dear. Yet, silence offers no shield for us. It merely buries the pain further within. Thus, if you find yourself burdened by something weighty, a memory, a fleeting moment, an unanswered question, understand this. You no longer need to bear this burden by yourself. You were never intended to. If this tale resonated with you, if it unearthed feelings you've long concealed, know that I recognize your experience. It's time to shatter the stillness. In unison, you've just experienced the unfolding of heartfelt tales. In the stillness, the softest revelations resonate with the most profound realities.